Hello there, welcome to the UX Psychology channel. Today I am joined by David DiSipio, and we're going to be talking a number of UX psychology related things. This is the first of many chats that we are going to be broadcasting on the UX Psychology channel. If you would like to have a chat, if you would like to have a chat with somebody else and put it on the channel, that's also cool. This is our channel, not my channel, not David's channel. It's for all of us. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hi, David, welcome.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much for having me on the channel. I'm so excited to have met another UX psychologist.
Yeah, maybe we should. I should just tell viewers briefly how we met. I mean, through the LinkedIn network and the tagging. David has been doing what I've just been starting to do for at least 6 months, maybe a year. Is that about right, David?
Yeah, well, I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and down here, so I'm a registered psychologist as well. And for the last 18 months, we've been running a community called UXPsychology. And there we've really been focusing on creating great design online experiences through best practice, research, academic, data and ethical practices. So once I met Nick and I saw that there was another person in the UK also working in psychology through LinkedIn, I was amazed. We were both doing very similar things on opposite sides of the world.
Yeah, it's the ultimate in validation. It's very cool. So we've had a meeting of minds, and so David was the obvious person to have an on-air chat with, because we're kind of separated at birth intellectually, if you know what I mean. We've had a few chats off air directly, like video chats, and it was just all gold. So we need to put this live and share it with everybody else.
I wish we could have recorded a lot of the chats that we had, Nick. They were great.
I know. Hopefully we can regurgitate some of that gold, but it's so close to both of our hearts that it's going to naturally come out in one shape or form anyway. So let's kick things off then, David. Let's talk about the need for UX psychology. What is it that prompted you to say, wait a minute, I need to do something?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. So maybe it's worth going and understanding a bit about my background. So I did a master's in organizational psychology. And in organizational psychology, it's all about research, academic research. I liken where we are with this whole situation now to where organizational psychology would have been about 150 years ago. So what I started to see are these overlaps between these two industries. In one industry, which was organizational psychology, was all about research, data, proving your case with research and data. And that's what they drilled into me. At the time, I was like, why do you have to have all this data and research? And I just didn't understand it. But then at that same time, I was working with design and human-centered design more, and online tools and products through startup weekends and more in the startup community. And I saw that there was this sort of mismatch. There wasn't any data or research going into design. And that's where I saw this great opportunity to start applying research, like what we've been taught in psychology, essentially, academic research, data, qualitative research methods to design to actually drive better experiences and better outcomes online.
Brilliant, brilliant. So you founded a UX psychology movement, I suppose, in Brisbane or Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah.
And you guys have regular meetups there, right?
Yeah. So what we have now is a UX psychology community of over 1,000 people in Melbourne.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really grown. We have one meetup a month currently, and each month we have a different speaker presenting on something very general on UX and psychology. The criteria is quite broad, and people, the real take home is people have to walk away or walk home with something that they can apply the very next day. So it's very practical.
Very nice.
It's very practical, and it's about the research, the data, the ethical practices in creating great experiences for people, essentially.
Brilliant. So I followed your lead. I've booked a space in London in June. I think it's the 23rd. I'll drop the exact dates when I've got the flyers ready, for a London UX psychology meetup. And we're going to follow your format, David, of very practical, very applied, with reflection at the end, so that everybody gets to actually apply something the next day in their project. I think it's brilliant. So I'm going to follow your lead on that. I'm not sure whether to do the first one on more of an introduction to psychology and where your value is in terms of the evidence and contributing to the design process, or to do it straight on personas, which for me is one of the most horribly abused kind of UX things around.
That's an interesting one.
Personas for me are, I spent my younger years hating them, really, really, really hating them, because my whole logic was, what if I'm not like your persona? You know, stop trying to pigeonhole me, stop trying to characterize me, and more importantly, stop trying to average me down. And I was so against it. I think there's even like a paragraph or two in my thesis about it, which lost me a job at some point many moons ago. I've had an epiphany since then, and I really get them now. Without going into all that detail here, I need to keep my powder slightly dry, otherwise I've got nothing to present with. There are
people to take away from that, Nick. Sorry.
No worries. What I would like people to come out with is, number one, a complete understanding of the role of a persona, because number two, how to construct a data-driven persona, which is much harder than it sounds. Much harder. It isn't just slapping numbers in there. So what is a persona? How do you create one? Very importantly, how do you validate one? Because that's one of my interview questions, and it is an absolute bastard of a question that I don't think anybody's got right to date. It's a horrible one. I'll give you the answer. I'll give the answer away at some point. I know this is all a bit too not Agatha Christie, but you know what I mean. Validation is a difficult thing of persona, and it just involves multiple samples and validating a hypothesis that you've generated from the early samples. It's not rocket science, really. It's just simple science. Is generate a hypothesis from some qualitative insight, and then use the quantitative and the qualitative in subsequent groups to identify it. But confirmation bias is a nightmare. Getting multiple observers is a good idea to compare notes. It gets interesting, but you know that I know you know this, but it gets very nuanced, which is why it's hard.
Yeah, no, definitely. Simple science. So you're saying anyone, well, not anyone, but most people should be able to get their heads around it. And, you know,
no, anybody can do this. It's just nobody knows how to do this. So I just want to give that away, because the other really big thing about personas is, I think we chatted about this before. There's this generational problem of generational knowledge leaving organizations. In academia, you publish, so it gets stored in this great big body of literature, and we can refer to it after you're dead and for millennia to come. That's not true in corporations. So when you learn stuff, it's in the heads of the people that learned it, and in some documentation, which invariably goes away. And when you go away, so does that knowledge. Now, when we're talking about psychology and UX in the design process, if that goes away because I leave your company, you've just lost a ton of money, way more than my salary. You've lost the knowledge, the intimate knowledge of your audience. So you know what it's like. You get almost like generations in a business. One person leaves, the head leaves, people drip away, and you end up with kind of a fresh team every 2 or 3 years, or it tends to be around that, right? Well, that every 2 or 3 years, you can't just keep relearning about your audience. You can't relearn their needs and behaviors, pain points, fears, all of the good stuff. You can't. So a persona, a deck of personas, persists over time. It's their academic literature, shall we say. So, you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter if I get hit by a bus. You've got my personas. That's what matters.
Yeah, you've made a really good point here. And it's sounding like, from what you're saying, this is more suited to a product-based company as opposed to an agency. Would that be right in saying? Because in agency land, you'd be jumping from client to client, and that's one of the challenges of that. But in a product-facing environment internally, you can really hone those personas and really understand those users. Is that?
Would you say that? I definitely say it leans way more towards the client side, definitely, because they when I say client side, you know, in the organization, the business itself, because because it's their primary users, their customers. And so they're the people you want to learn intimately. However, for agencies and agency staff, agency owners, who have been frankly over-egging the persona thing historically, selling some not very valid stuff, the opportunity to earn money quarterly or annually by being the keeper of their personas and to do the research to update their personas is there. It's a nice revenue stream. So it's not a bad thing for agencies to be doing. They're just doing it by proxy, or they're doing it on behalf of their paying clients who don't have the research staff internally. And given the fact that there are not enough well-qualified, well-experienced researchers in the marketplace, at least in England, that's the case.
It's the case worldwide, I think. Validation of personas and the art of personas is something that gets in trouble everywhere in the world.
Mate, you know what it's like when you're working agency side and you see other places or people's work, the personas that they've been using or working to. It's not a good look. It's really bad. You know that they're not performing. You know that people are making massive design and business decisions over some of these things, and they've just got absolutely zero validity. And you might as well have just made them up. And the idea that you're designing to made up stuff is just preposterous. So we've got to stop that, right?
As well, that's not ethical, and I don't believe that's ethical. And we should really be, you know, playing an important role in ensuring that, you know, we are designing off evidence, based on evidence, not made up stuff. You know,
ethics in digital is what I was laughing at. That's all. It's some kind of oxymoron.
That's probably another talk. You know, it's another talk in the future.
Definitely. Look, as a BPS person, and you as an AM or APA person, we're ethically bound. You know, I mean, it just is what we do, but it doesn't apply to everybody else, unfortunately. So so where are we talking about? So the need for UX, the UX psychology meetups in both London and Australia, or England and Australia. If anybody else watching this wants to host a UX psychology meetup in your part of the world, get in touch with me or David. Let's just coordinate these things. One of the things that Dave and I have spoken about is we would love to somehow combine our meetups. Now, because of the time zone difference, that's not going to happen. But maybe we can video each of our meetups, or have a little small snippet that we show at each other's meetups, which should be really cool. Maybe it might be that we do a persona one here in London first. We'll show our outputs and we'll on video, and then share that with David to then compare with your outputs in Australia. Just very cool. You know, the idea we got this global network of researchers who are all on the same page or on the same philosophy, who are all scientifically driven. Yeah, it's so sexy. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. This is great, Nick. Great. Yep, definitely.
I'm also really conscious of the time, David, because it's 10 p.m. here, and you've probably got to go to work, right?
Yeah, I've got to go to work. It's only like 6 a.m. here. So, yeah, totally.
This is nuts. This is why the meetup thing can't happen live. But I've got to let you go. But this has been amazing. And, David, I love talking to you. We could talk for hours. Let's do this again really shortly. I don't mind staying up later if it helps you. But, yeah.
Work. I'm flexible. Like, we can do sometimes at night, sometimes during the day. Totally up to you.
Brilliant. David, you're a star, mate. Really great to talk to you, and let's speak soon.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Nick. We'll talk soon. Take
it easy, mate. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. See you later. Bye.
Thanks a lot.